So there have been kidnappings, there is a crippling siege, and there are mass killings that are ongoing in this conflict that has broken out. Now, amidst the warnings and also the strong pledges by the leaders, the people who are suffering at the end, after all, are innocent civilians, the kind of images that we just showed you. Remember, it is not the Hamas leadership that has become collateral damage. It is not the Israeli leadership that has become a collateral or a victim of the aggression by the militants. It is people on both sides of the border who are suffering, and especially at this moment, the people in the Gaza Strip, the Palestinians, who are bearing the brunt of this mindless violence. Listen in to some of the voices.
Time is rushing. There's a 9-month baby and a 3-year-old child, and my aunt has Parkinson's disease. I want them back. We all want our family back.
ناشد الدول العربية والدول الكبرى والدول المانحة إنه يوقفوا إطلاق النار على قطاع غزة. كل يوم فيش يوم إلا بروح شهداء، أقل حاجة 50 كل يوم، وبقطفوا الدور على المدنيين وبقطفوا على الصغار وعلى النساء وعلى الشيوخ وعلى الكبار سن كبير، وإحنا مش عارفين وين نروح. كمان في المدارس سنة مشتتين في المدارس.
The people from both sides in Gaza are pleading. They're seeking for help from the world. But this is what the Western leaders are doing. Not one Western leader so far has spoken out unequivocally on this and has called for a ceasefire. Not one Western leader has asked for restraint at this point of time. Now, the Israelis have been suffering brutalities since Saturday at the hands of the Hamas militants. Now remember, what has happened in the aftermath of the Hamas incursion is unprecedented. Israel has suffered 1,300 casualties, something that has never happened before in any act of violence by any Palestinian faction ever in the history of Israel. People within Israel are asking for Netanyahu's scalp. They're saying, how did the Prime Minister allow for something like this to happen? Why was there such a monumental failure of intelligence? 150 hostages have been taken by Hamas. Now, the footage of the dead bodies being lined up on the streets are, of course, coming up. Families have been broken, with some members being held hostage in Gaza. Now, the Israelis are asking their governments some serious questions. What was their government doing if it was not there to protect them? In Gaza, people have been going through their own share of suffering. Israel has vowed to wipe out Hamas ever since the brutal militant attack. But what seems to be getting wiped off of the map are the people, the Palestinians of the Gaza Strip. They've been cut off from food, water supplies, medicines and also fuel. Parts of Gaza have been completely reduced to rubble and dust. Refugee camps and schools have been bombed and damaged. Hospitals have come under attack, and they've been overwhelmed with the number of people, the wounded, who are being brought in. Now, all people are asking for is that the civilians who've got nothing to do with the politics of the region need to be spared, and that the state of Israel should lift the blockade. Countries have called for a ceasefire for food and medicines to be brought in. Now, this is the scale of the disaster that is playing out at this moment. But the pleas of the innocent common people are falling pretty much on deaf ears. Now, Israel has said that it will not allow for a humanitarian corridor. Not allow for a humanitarian corridor. You heard that right. It would not lift the blockade, even though the people there are living without water, electricity and food. And it says that it wants its hostages to be released by Hamas. So this is the situation of what is happening at this moment in this conflict between Israel and Palestine. And our correspondent Jody Cohn has been tracking the story very closely for us from Israel. Let's listen in to what she has to say.
IDF Chief Herzi Halevi has given his first public statement since the war began, acknowledging the failures that enabled Hamas's infiltration and mass murder on Sunday, and saying that there will be an investigation and they will learn from it. But the focus now is on the war against Hamas. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in Israel and has offered support from President Biden's and bipartisan support for Israel, saying there's no justification for the atrocities and Israel has an obligation to defend itself. He came with three messages. Number one, to make sure that Israel has the means to defend itself in terms of aid. Number two, he's going to be working to ensure that others in the region don't join in the fighting. And three, working with counterparts to locate and secure the release of the hostages. There are thought to be 150 hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. We know that 100 Israeli families have been informed that their missing loved ones are being held by Hamas. And Antony Blinken says that the other hostages, or an unknown number of hostages, that several hostages come from 30 different countries around the world. This is Jodie Cohen for WION World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.